Sometimes, honestly, sometimes I get a little down, but sometimes, seriously, I get really depressed. And that's what we're talking about today's Big Deal! Bruno and I have a few things in common. We're both Aries.
We're both in touch with our emotions.
We both like to hoard hot sauce packets and chopsticks.
That's very true. And sometimes we can both get a little down.
But we're not alone.
In fact, the majority of Americans today have experienced some level of depression in the past 2 years.
And it's not all personal stuff. Some people get depressed just by watching the news. But you know what? It's not all bad. And we have some stats that might cheer you up.
According to humanprogress.org, the world has seen the number of people living in extreme poverty reduced by more than 60% in the past 50 years.
How about this? The global literacy rate for all people aged 15 and above is 85% for the first time ever.
Unwanted pregnancies are dropping.
Minorities in higher education are rising.
There are more music festivals than ever before.
Weed has been legalized in California.
Which reminds me, the other day I had a revelation about how we're all connected. So, no matter what, someone's always watching me in my sleep.
I've gone on 5 OkCupid dates and not been stabbed in the neck once.
Oh, too many blessings.
Life is beautiful.
I'm starting to feel better.
I needed this. I love you, bro.
Yeah, who was she?
I thought she was with you.
I thought she was, all right.
I mean, in terms of like the world, we've had this discussion before, and you just saw, you and me talk about this. There's reasons to be happy. There's a lot of good things happening in the world. I think a little bit more good than bad, but there's also a lot of bad, fine. But it's in my personal life that I get sad, okay? And I've been admitting this more and more, but I actually do suffer from depression. Depression runs in my family.
Oh, wow.
I remember my dad being really depressed when I was like 7, 8 years old, and he couldn't get off of the couch. He went to go live with my parents separated. Wow. He went to go live with my grandmother. And it was like, and I'm like, what is this? And my mom was like, he's depressed. I'm like, is it sad? No, it's deeper than that. Like, it's debilitating.
Right.
Dude.
Now, one of the things that makes me happy is I get to come here to work.
Are you serious?
I start off sad at my job, at my house, and then I get happy when I come to my job.
Are you freaking kidding me? Are you serious about that? Or are you?
No,
he's being serious.
No, you know what it is? This place distracts me from my depression.
Oh, wow.
Now, I want to say something on that note, because part of this big deal is something that I wanted to say. I do believe that these days, though, and getting like the blues,
Right.
At the same time, it could be used as a wake-up call, because now that you say this to us, which I really didn't know this about Humberto, you also are, or I consider you like a very spiritual person. You're very much in touch with, you're aware of life. You are conscious, meaning in consciousness-wise and all that stuff. So I think these blues kind of give us the contrast in our lives that we sometimes need to seek something else, deeper meanings in life, more connection with people that we love, and with people that we also don't love as much. And I think part of that new awareness, or the raise of awareness in the world, is because of these blues that we get. I mean,
that's a great point, because I feel that I've grown. The most growth that I've had in my life, I think, has been in the past couple of years, and I think it's been due to me not being mad at anyone else. Yeah. Looking at my own life and looking at myself, and the reason I'm depressed is because of the disappointments that I have with myself. I don't get depressed because somebody screwed me over. I don't get depressed because somebody's driving me crazy. I get depressed because I regret things where I fall short.
So then you got to do like...
I'm having a midlife crisis is what's happening.
We all have to deal with certain things, and I think one of the things we have to deal with the most these days is self-love.
Right.
And that comes also because of our generation and what we're going through, especially, and I don't want to blame it or point out something specific, but I think social media has a lot to do with it, because
all the studies are showing this,
the way it should be used.
Right.
Yeah.
We're constantly comparing ourselves to others. We're constantly wanting what somebody else has, scrolling down through this and that, and it's just, you can't really help it, like to just compare your life to somebody else's. But we forget sometimes that these people, or everybody out there, is portraying their best version, or what they want really the world to see, or how they want to project themselves. So we need to keep that in mind, and probably step away from social media a little more, and read more, breathe more, spend more time in nature.
I agree.
Do that
meditate.
Kind of thing. Meditate for sure.
I think like just going off what you were saying too is like self-love. Not only is it important for us, but it's relationships are just reflections of how we see ourselves. So if you're not fully in a good place with yourself, like my past relationships have soured because I fell short, and then that transmitted onto them, and suddenly they were someone suddenly who they didn't want to be, and they're like, what happened? And it wasn't that anything that they did. It was me kind of like understanding or not understanding my place in the world, you know, like.
How do you deal? I know sometimes, you know, you're a sensitive dude. I sit behind you, like, you know, you're very, very happy, but you're also sensitive to certain things. Like, how do you deal with the blues, depression? Do you do therapy? You know, you do yoga?
I do therapy. I do yoga. I meditate. I think just people are always so hesitant to meditate because they like don't want to get into the spiritual thing. And it's like, bro, then just breathe. Just sit down and like
close your eyes, close your ears,
and like breathe intentionally for 10 times.
Well, like, one of the things I seek out spirituality. I've done some therapy, but I seek out spirituality to help me with things. And one of the things that the Hindus teach is that there's 3 ways to burn karma, because karma is the thing that you build between you and God and the universe. And the 3 ways are suffering, service, and meditation. Now, everybody knows the suffering. That's what depression is. It's the most basic thing that everyone does. They punish themselves. But I want to get out of that phase, and what I've been noticing is the more I do, the more service I do, and the more time I take to meditate and to come into that, you know, that awareness that I can have more composure within my emotions.
Yeah,
well, how often do you do it?
I try to meditate every day, but I don't get around to it.
And you can also just be mindful, so let's keep that in mind.